Hey guys, welcome back to the complete menu Legend of Zelda Master Quest. We're going to be doing the final dungeon, which is located in the top left of the map. Once you have all the items, it's pretty easy to get there. And as you saw with a quick little preview, it looks a bit like Ganon's face. Unfortunately, it has the requirement that you can't defeat. You can't enter this dungeon without doing all 8 other dungeons first. You need the Triforce Shard. And there's going to be a lot of backtracking to get the 2 treasures. The 2 treasures in this dungeon are the magic item, the silver arrows and the red ring, which is going to increase our defense twofold, which is actually quite nice. Here we have some enemies we might have seen before. It's land molars. The official artwork makes them look like pretty similar actually. They just look like centipedes, so to me they look like the fire bar's gone nuts. In between parts I was looking up some... I would mention that the like-likes have these weird little eyes all around their bodies, make them look a bit more horrific, but it's starting to occur to me that they look a bit like gibbering mouths. And that's nightmare fuel. But to be honest, the entire game is nightmare fuel. Wouldn't be surprised if this was the only game in the franchise that just hangs up his shield and sword and just goes in a fetal position at home, just what you just saw. The optimal way is to actually not go towards a red ring first, but to attempt to get the silver arrows. The silver arrows are underneath the red eye of the right eye of the dungeon, and going for those is kind of a dead-end endeavor. So you're gonna want to go and get those first, then go back towards the red ring, because near the red ring treasure room there's a walk towards Ganon, which is going to save you a lot of time and stress, because there's a lot of puzzle elements, or quote-unquote puzzle elements. There's going to be a lot of block pushing and finding your way through the 4 route rooms, the ones with the blocks in the middle that block off one of the routes if you push it the wrong way. And a good tactic to employ is to just ignore some rooms that are just full of enemies that are hard to kill, like wizards and dark nuts. While I do say that, a room like this with wizards with the orange cloaks, they're pretty easy to kill. At this point you have the magical sword, which is a one-hit KO anywhere. Not sure if I properly introduced that creature. We pretty much just skipped it, but that's a Patra. It's kind of like a winged flying creature that has its young circle around it, and the other way to kill it is to kill all the little enemies circling it, and then you can deliver 3 strikes to the main Patra in the center. This is one of the enemies. The Patra is one of the enemies that will show off a weird wraparound feature that when it expands and the little enemies around it, the little mini Patras, they exit through the right of the screen, they will appear in the left. I've seen that happen. It might have even happened in the initial run through. So if an enemy can go out of bounds and it goes far enough that it appears on the opposite side, it can ambush you with damage, so you gotta watch out for that. say the Patra backs up enough, it might be able to ambush you with its mini Patras from below, as and this is an instance, using this room as an example. Now don't do what I do and go straight in the center, because while you can stand in the middle of the ring, it doesn't help you in any way. Here we go. Here's a layout of a map. It looks like Ganon's face. Kind of like a pig without the snout detail. Now, when we clear this room of Wiz Robes, we'll be able to push the block in the center. This is going to get us the silver arrows, which are just right there. Now you're going to need the silver arrows. I believe they upgrade your regular arrows, but you can't finish the game without them. They're pretty much necessary for the final boss. Now, I want to backtrack towards the beginning. I didn't show that on screen because I figured if you pretty much can head towards the way you came, and if there's dead ends, the easiest way would be to find yourself a War Master and let it carry you to the end, or, you know, just kill yourself. Granted, if you're on like full health, you don't want to do that, so there are ways to backtrack to the beginning of the dungeon. And given that you cleared out all the rooms, it would be an easier task. Here I'm getting paranoid about the lights devouring my shield, so I'm using the rod from afar. These buyers, they are splitting up into bats because the fire damage at the end of the rod only does the equivalent of a wooden sword. So there's something to think about. While it is continuous damage and it is safe in terms of range, it does take longer to kill enemies that way. So in a toss-up between that and the sword beam from the magical sword, you're pretty much better off with the magical sword. It does a power of 4. And that's not stated anywhere in the game, that's just an arbitrary integer that I'm giving these things, because assuming the wooden sword's base is at 1, it doubles and then doubles again, so I'm just giving these weapons arbitrary numbers in order to get a sense of the power. Now, another problem with Dungeon 9 is that there isn't always a direct route to the room you want to go to. Say you want to head to the top right, that you should be primarily going in a diagonal motion towards it. You kind of have to go in and out of rooms, and that might not be readily apparent without a guide. Especially rooms that would lock you into a one-way fight that you don't need. There are some rooms like that, and you do want to avoid those because you don't have that much resources. Once I realized it's a key door, I just decide to go. This is another technique. If you're getting your potion ready, you can go back and forth in between rooms to give you time to reset the enemy behavior, because that does happen once you enter a room. And with something that fires off a crazy amount of projectiles like the Wiz Robes, that might be a good idea. And you can see the level 4 sword beam doing a lot more damage than the magical rod's fire. It's always good to have that on hand. So while these tactics, like waiting in the water or staying inside the doorway, might take longer, it's better to keep yourself at full health. And depending on what kind of bubbles you got, it might be better just to get hit by a flashing bubble, because it is a minor inconvenience, especially if you're on an island with only the bubble, then you don't really fear any kind of attack. I love this. Go to the next room. Okay, thanks. I was actually just thinking of giving up here. The old men sometimes, if you run into them in the dungeon, do give you hints for something that might be related to the overworld itself. But they are very cryptic. Like, one of the hints, I think in Dungeon 8, were south of the arrow, there is a secret. What that's referring to is those arrows, you know, those rocks in the formation of an arrow out in the overworld, pretty much near the top of the map. There's, I think, a potion shop or a heart container just hidden. So I mean, that is helpful, but you probably will forget it by the time you get out of the dungeon. Or if you even figure out what it means in the first place. I'm not sure if the Patra itself can fire some standard projectiles at you. I don't think it does. I think all it has is touch damage. Using the rod is one of my favorite things to do against the land molding, because they got crazy erratic movement and back and forth over a square that they can't help but run into it. And here we go, we have the red ring a bit. You pretty much, if you have a guide, you know it exists, and to get it this late in the game, when you're pretty much done. Feels like it could have been placed maybe in Dungeon 7 or maybe even Dungeon 6, somewhere through the 2/3 part of the game, because if you see in this playthrough, you can purchase the blue ring in the shop once you grind for enough rupees, which can be as early as before Dungeon 1, like half an hour into the game. So you get double defense for pretty much the entire game. It's not gradual, it's, I would say you spend 1/10 of the game, or even less. As regular powered Link, you spent about, actually I would say like 1/20th of the game as regular power Link and quadruple defense Link combined, I would say. And yeah, once you find that warp place, you end up in the right rear of the dungeon, and once we defeat Patra one more time, here I am trying the fire strategy, but the mini Patras are immune to fire. So I am going to have to heal up. Luckily I have one more potion left. And hopefully the sword beam will serve me well for a bit, but you can't block the projectiles from coming from the statues. Either that or I just got unlucky and got hit. But I think the key to getting through this dungeon is using the potions around the same points that I have used them. And if you do well against Patra, then you've got more than enough health for the final boss, which is just beyond this door. So you get the silver arrows ready. Try not to get massacred on the way in. And you hold up the Triforce, it blinds Ganon. And so this part might not be apparent, but you have to use your sword to stab where you think Ganon is. He's got 5 locations where he appears. He appears on what appears the nose on the skull. He appears in the top 2 corners of the skull's face, and he also appears around where the cheekbones are. So you got to shoot him with the silver arrows, and it doesn't look like it does any damage, but after a couple of shots he does go down. And you pick up his Triforce of Power and you go into the next room. Now, quick little warning, those flames do hurt, and if you were on perhaps a critical condition, maybe you had the last bit of your health and you run into that fire, yeah, that's going to knock you out. And you'd have to go all the way back to the beginning. But there we go, we finished the Master Quest. Overall, not too hard of an experience. The difficulty spike, I'm not sure I noticed, especially if you're well prepared like I was. But we get the credits roll again, and yeah, there's pretty much not anything else here. You don't get any extra rewards for beating this Master Quest, you get the same credits. And as always, I will put this here that if you guys want to have a commentary-less, pretty much a Master Quest run without any commentary, let me know. And I will upload that as well. But you get this ending screen with the amount of deaths, and I think you get some sort of rating based on how well you did. And we got the last of the items, so both our checklists are completed. And with that, guys, I'll see you guys for the next complete menu. See you.